It's been moved and seconded that the board goes back into regular session. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Opposed are the same. We're back into regular session. There were no actions taken during executive sessions and no decisions were made. Did we have any further business as far as executive session?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve 16 elections and the 6 resignations that were presented to us by Dr. Corporal.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
It is moved and seconded that we approve the recommendations for the 16 certified hires and the 6 resignations. Are you ready for a question? All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Opposed is the same. It has been accepted.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, and we need someone to call Reverend Smith. I'm sorry. Ms. Nam, did you approve or?
I disapprove.
I apologize. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 approves and 1 that did not approve. I apologize. Yes, please call Mr. Smith. That was an oversight on my part. Can you hear us, Mr. Smith? I think he said yes.
Put him down by his speaker.
Just lay it out, speaker. He should be able to hear it. Okay, Dr. McCord, I think you said something you want to say.
Thank you. Just going to mention that we are going to issue contracts for classified staff on tomorrow. We have issued contracts for certified staff, and we'll do that on tomorrow for classified staff.
Okay. Everyone's looking forward to that. Approval of the minutes of April 6th, our regular scheduled meeting, and I'd like approval for the budget workshop on April 27th.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the April 6th regular meeting and April 27th budget workshop.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that we approve the minutes for April 6th regular scheduled meeting and April 27th budget workshop. Are you ready for a question? Are you ready to vote? All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Opposed are the same. It is unanimous. Thank you. Points of celebration. Dr. McCord.
Good evening, everyone in attendance, and those of you that are viewing. I know we said that we would not have points of celebration, but there are just a couple of things that I wanted to bring to the attention of the board and the community that I think are worthy. One is that we recently received furniture donations from Lexington School District 1, somewhere in the neighborhood, and Ms. Anderson, if you would, if you look behind me, you'll see much needed furniture that our schools would have had in the capital improvement plan that will be presented later this year. Some schools have had furniture in play for over 30 years. Lexington School District 1, not only did they donate this furniture, but they also assisted in helping our staff get it here. I want to mention these particular staff members from our maintenance crew for doing the heavy lifting. And believe me, it was heavy lifting because I believe it was maybe 3 18-wheeler, I don't know what you call the cargo loads, furniture, but Travis Rory, Kajola Knox, Al Terry, Courtney Stubbs, Jesus Carrillo, Andre Quick, Michael Prince, James McCall, and Dante Kozer, as well as Herbert McNeil. These gentlemen went down and spent about 3 days in Lexington County. Now, make sure we get this part, they had to take the furniture out of the classroom, put it on the truck, and then bring that furniture back to Marlboro County, take it off the truck. We have it warehoused at BIS and McCall. Then we have to empty the classrooms from schools like BIS, McCall, Clio, and I'm sure I'm leaving one out. And then they'll reload the furniture and put it in rooms. And so I just want to say thank you and hats off to these young men for their tremendous dedication and hard work. And if no one has any objection, I'd like to do something special for those, and that's why I'm bringing it up. And I'll take any suggestions that you might have, because again, not only did they leave, they stayed, and they really did the heavy lifting, and continue to do so.
What did you have in mind before any of us make any suggestions? Let's just hear what your thought was.
I'm glad you asked.
Thank you very much.
Because we have to do it again this week. They're going down, and they haven't asked for anything, by the way. They're just thankful for the fact that we're getting something that our students can use. I was thinking for each trip, just $250. And what I mean by that is $250 for last week, $250 for this week. That's not a lot, but I can promise you, if you take a look at, you go by and look at the schools and see the work that these 7 or 8 young men did, you'll be impressed.
Is there $250 for each employee or all together?
No, each employee, yes, sir. So for those that attended last week, $250, and those that will attend this week, because they stayed overnight.
Anybody got any objections?
Can we afford it? Can we find it? Give it to them?
The answer to that question, I mean, that's not a lot of money, yes. Worst case scenario, and of course, I see Wes looking at me, but, worst case scenario, if it costs us, $6,000 for $1 million in furniture, I think that's a pretty good trade-off.
Any objections? Should you go forward with it?
No objection? Any other suggestions?
No, that's good.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sure these individuals will be happy to hear. And by the way, it's open to anyone. So I probably should have started with that. We have definitely more staff on hand that could have gone. More hands, less work. But these were the only ones that not only agreed to going, but agreed to going back. Okay. And then finally, we have had a tremendous outpouring of support from the community for our bus drivers and our cafeteria staff. One organization, Sword of Truth, they came through and fed the entire bus staff and the cafeteria staff on last week, Monday, at no cost to the district, just as a way of saying thank you. Kingdom Life Ministries has also expressed a desire to do so, and so people are noticing and recognizing what these individuals have been doing. They're called essential workers, but I also would like to acknowledge them as being the heroes that they are for making sure that our kids are fed each and every day. And by the way, that's been a task, trying to get everyone on board to come in and serve. I think some of you have been present to help out and assist. We thank you. Your spouses have been present. We thank all of you for the work that you've done to get us to this point.
I just want to comment on Sword of Truth, and I had an opportunity to talk with Bishop Brown and tell him how much we appreciate what he's done. And according to him, he says it's just the beginning of what they intend to do to help out in the community, especially in the district. They'll be doing other things to help out as often as they can. And they should be commended along, again, with others who are doing so much in our community. Now's the time for us to come together, to do things. You hear this thing all the time about Marlboro strong, U.S. strong, all these strong. But when the rubber meets the road, it's not about how strong you are, it's how willing you are to help. That makes a difference. It's how willing you are. And so we thank those who are willing to make a difference in our community. And we thank all of you guys for what you do. Moving forward, public comments? There are no public comments? Thank you. Board items for discussion, building updates.
Building updates, and again, Ms. Anderson, if you'll turn the lights off. Many of you are familiar with this document. It is also included on our website. For those of you that are not familiar with it, if you click on board referendum items, you'll see the items that we stated out that we would look to complete. And I'm not going to go through it in its entirety, but if you get to the last couple of pages and look at each school and see those things that we sought out to complete, we are well ahead of schedule and nearing completion, well ahead of schedule and under budget. And so, who has clicked? So what I, okay, well, I don't know who has clicked it, but what we're seeing here is some of the work that's continuing to be done at our schools. This is one of our elementary schools. You'll see, even from the state that they're in right here, without the toiletries, you can see the disrepair that our kids have been subjected to for quite some time. And as we continue to make improvements, you see what these areas look like now. Not just from the toiletries, but from the lighting, from the paint. And again, these are before pictures, these are after pictures. And after pictures, and we just want you to, the public, to see that we are making good use of the funds that we said we would use in the best possible manner. This is, hold on right there, George. This is the auditorium at BIS. And again, if you look at it in its current state, you'll see that it has been in disrepair for quite some time. I'm proud to say that we're ahead of schedule. We started we started March, we were out March 16th, we started March 23rd, full speed ahead with our projects. And you'll be able to see, George, where we are when it comes to the cafeteria at BIS. Moving forward, this is where we were in March. And as we continue with these pictures, if you've been by BIS and you just casually glance over, you'll notice the work that's been done. See, George? And it's been done, it's being done. That's the auditorium, all of the duct work and electrical work. That's the ceiling that has been completed. And now, this was last week. Now we're starting on the top. Pause right there. That is the cafeteria when we finish at BIS. Now again, if you look at where we were a month ago and where we are currently, you can see that this will be in place by the time our kids return to school in August. George, show the auditorium. This is what the new auditorium will look like in its final stages. So, from the ceiling, to the seats, to the curtain, to the stage, this is what it will look like in its final stages. So, again, you should be commended for not just your foresight, but also for your willingness to give me the authority to move forward with these projects. And I'll take any questions that you have. Some pictures that aren't included, you've seen the track, you've seen the scoreboard. Because of COVID-19, we haven't been able to get the training for the scoreboard, but they were able to come last week and will be back this week to do some training. And so on Wednesday from 8:20 to 8:40, if you're free and available and want to sit in your car, another tribute will be dedicated to the senior class, Marlboro County High School, and we'll hopefully have some things going across the scoreboard.
That's Wednesday, PM?
Yes, sir. Wednesday PM.
Okay. Any comments from anyone?
I sure will. I apologize. Desks, chairs, tables, tables that will be used for.
No,
I'm sorry.
Put it on mute.
Oh,
Just put it on.
ask him to put it on mute.
Somebody put something.
Tables and chairs that will help us with collaborative style teaching. desks that are more ergonomic for teachers and staff. We have podiums, we have chalkboards, or not chalkboards, that's old terminology, but electronic boards and the like. Oh, most definitely. Even if you start right here in this media center, these tables and chairs, I think, were put in 1989. Now, I don't want anybody to test me on it, but depending on how you sit in the chair, you may not like the result. So, to say that we need it is an understatement, but in the capital improvement plan that we were planning to present this summer, you'll see these things as much needed items.
The fields of Blenheim.
Fields of Blenheim. Update on the fields of Blenheim. We planted grass. Grass seed, according to Mr. Hall, they went down with the aerator. They aerated the grounds for the football field. A mound was built for the softball field, and I think covered since we've been out. Now, we ran into a little situation with the company that was providing services. Baseball field.
There should not be a mound on softball field.
Okay, baseball field. The mound is on the baseball field, and I believe it was covered maybe 3 weeks ago or so. They did put down the new clay, but because there's been no activity, I can't tell you that there's been any action.
I haven't seen any action at all, and I mean, I was just curious, I know we've got a lot going on, but you have two people out there working 6 feet, 20 feet apart.
Now, they keep the grass cut. They keep the grass cut, same with the football field.
But I'd like to get the infield finished, I mean, now's a good time to finish that infield, they haven't completed.
Well,
Have bases installed, things like that, but.
we did put a RFP out, I believe, maybe a week ago for the fields. Now, I might be wrong on that, it may have been at the end of last week, but we discontinued services with the former provider, and so we're looking for someone to bring new services. We had a company come up from Columbia to do the work that's been done, and we paid that, and so now we're looking for someone to be on a permanent basis. So
Just don't forget them, okay?
we haven't. It's just like the sign that was moved from the high school that went down to Blenheim. The reason we haven't been able to erect that sign is because of COVID-19. The company can't get up here and send people to erect it, but as soon as it's lifted, then they'll come down and put that up as well. So we haven't forgotten.
Do you think it's a possibility that there will be any football played on the fields this fall, on the football field? All I see
That
over there
depends.
is the goalpost,
Right, that depends on current situation as it relates to athletics and COVID-19. I can't even answer that for regular high school.
But if we did have that athletic
Oh,
program.
definitely. The field will be
Playing
ready.
high school, they cannot play it here in Blenheim, and that's all I'm trying to.
Oh, no,
Just
if,
trying to, just
if,
keep you
if,
moving forward,
I'm-
that's all I'm doing.
I got you, and if we can play and participate, they'll be able to play and participate.
I mean, we're hoping that we're gonna have school on schedule in August, and we're gonna move forward.
Prayerfully, prayerfully.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I heard you say we're ahead of schedule, which obviously we are, but I also heard you say under budget.
Well, when I say under budget, if you look on this last page here, even if we did at a minimum, the work, but yes, to answer the question, the minimum, we had on here with the projects completed, it's $15 million. We only received $10 million from the public.
Okay.
So if we're completing projects, we're utilizing funds in an expedient manner, I won't say we're cutting corners, we're making the most out of every dollar. And that's not to mention those things that have come along the way. For example, the the pull station at BIS. We have to do a complete overhaul of the fire panel system, because that's been there since 1960, 1970. I mean, some things that should have been taken care of haven't been taken care of, and so we're having to get that done to continue to move forward. So we won't not complete because of funds.
Okay. Thank you.
So I don't know, $10 million bond referendum, how much we need to spend so far?
I'll bring that to you at next week. We gave it to you at the last board meeting, but I'll bring it back.
Anybody remember close to what it was?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but we'll get it back.
Like 3 points.
They the only one that got close number.
3 points. 3 points.
Sir?
I'm not the only one that can't remember.
Oh, no. I mean, everybody in here over the age of 30 is gonna have a hard time.
Okay, superintendent's report.
I'll ask at this time for Dr. Robinson to come up and give us an update on our e-learning and close of school year. And as she makes her way to the stage, if you would, just join me. If you notice, she has a different name now. She is a recent graduate and has now done all of the things needed, requirements necessary to complete her doctoral studies. And so I present to you Dr. Kekila Robinson.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna have to pull my mask in, it's a little warm in here. Thank you. I appreciate everyone helping me through my doctoral studies. I was in my last year when I had an opportunity to come to Marlboro County, and I knew that was gonna be a challenge, but it was a challenge I was willing to accept. And I will say that this experience helped me in my doctoral process as I finished my dissertation because it was on professional development. So, thank you for all your patience and understanding. I would like to provide a update to our e-learning. And George is gonna pull up a slide, but I believe you have this in your packet, it's Grace Over Grades. As you know, 6 weeks ago, we left school on a Friday and returned that Sunday to a meeting with Dr. McCord where we were prepared to ask our teachers to come in for what I honestly thought was gonna be 2 weeks. In less than 48 hours, our staff took what we do in bricks and mortar and went to an online platform. In honor of National Teacher Appreciation Week, I think it is only right to honor those teachers and the outstanding job that they have done in Marlboro County School District. 15 districts in the state of South Carolina were already approved to be e-learning, so they had over a year, maybe not prepared for COVID-19, but prepared to offer e-learning on an online platform in case of an emergency. Now, they thought an emergency would be 1 week of a hurricane, so even they weren't prepared for this. But we had not applied to be an e-learning district, and so we did what other districts had planned for months and weeks in less than 48 hours, and our teachers have done an outstanding job. They have taken on Google Classroom, Google Meet, they're using, our vendors have just poured free resources on us, and they have taken advantage of that. So I think we will be in a better situation next year when we go in, because we would have had a chance to explore a lot of programs that we didn't think we would ever be able to afford or learn. So there is some silver lining in some of what we've been doing. Our teachers have been having staff meetings. We've been doing our E3 step meetings on Zoom. We've been having principal meetings through Zoom, and they've been meeting with their classes through Zoom meetings, checking in individually and in groups. But as we come to a close, we wanted to share the grading policy that we will be using with you. We met as a leadership team with our principals last week to make sure we were all on the same page. We did receive input on the school level before the principals received input from their teachers, and then we came together as a team at the district office with those principals and developed the plan that you have in front of us. From guidance from the State Department, there will not be what you're used to or what we're used to, 3rd quarter, 4th quarter grade. Instead, we will have 1 semester grade. So in Power School, what that will look like is that the 3rd quarter has remained open, and all additional grades since March 13th will be entered on 1 single date. And then we've come up for grades 1 through 5. We don't want students who were not, there is a gap. There are some students who do not have access to Wi-Fi. There are some students who do not have access to a parent who can help them, and that is no fault to the students. So we don't want to punish our students during this time. We want to be fair and as equitable as possible, but knowing that there is a gap, we want to measure our student engagement based on completion of assignments, whether that's online or work packets, because some grades, K through 3, for example, and even beyond that, parents did request an online packet instead of using the online platform. Participation in online classes or phone calls also will be taken into account. So we're gonna use for grades 1 through 5, if the assignments meet expectations, those grades, they will receive a grade of 100, approaches 85, and does not meet a 70. That will be averaged in with the third quarter, and a second quarter grade will be given instead of a fourth quarter, third quarter grade. For grades 6 through 12, using the same concept, except for on that one, work not submitted, they will not receive a 0, but a 50. And on top of that, just like with every other situation, we have a calendar. The seniors finish their coursework on April 30th. They will have until May 15th to take care of any issues that may be outstanding, and a final grade for our seniors will be entered on May 15th. For our K through 11th grade students, final work will assignments will be given until May 15th, and the same way we did with seniors, if there are any issues, they will have until May 30th to clear up any issues. And then we will do final report cards on June 4th. Any questions?
So the only way that they will not pass would be work not submitted?
Well, we're gonna do grades over grades. So we're not gonna say just because you didn't submit an assignment, you will not pass. Teachers will individually work with every student. And if there's an issue with retention, those conversations should have already started. But we've taken every effort possible with our social workers, with our McKinney-Vento, Mr. Marion, not Smith, I always say that wrong, Marlon Prince, to reach out to students who may not be submitting work. So we hope that won't be an issue, but we'll deal with each individual issue individually.
And what's the time frame on work being submitted? Is it due each week or?
Some teachers did every week, some teachers did projects, it varies from school to school.
Most did 2 weeks. And let me, if I can, just respond to, in very few cases, we have where a student has done no work. I think if you look at the data trend around not just the state, but around the country, there are cases where students have not been able to complete any assignments, sometimes by no fault of their own, based on where they live, how they live, their extenuating circumstances that have prevented it. But in those rare cases, and I say rare because each of our principals have submitted a list of names of students that they have not received any work. And it's a very small number. And so efforts are still being made to get them to do work or find out what the reasons are why they're not completing work.
Thank you.
And this information will go out district-wide on tomorrow, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Graduation update, and I'll share with you what we shared last week on our live cast, and we'll have another live on tomorrow. Happy to say that principals, not just at the high school, but at the elementary and middle schools, they're working on ways to make whatever closing ceremony is that they have had traditionally be special for this year. In some cases, it may include a combination of virtual closeouts. It may be a parade. It may be a yard full of signs. But each school is working to do something special because each school has some type of ceremony or ritual, so to speak, that has made it significant for the student, whether it's pre-K, going up to kindergarten, or 5th grade, closing out and going to 6th grade, or 8th grade, closing out and going to the high school, and definitely the last one that has everyone's attention, high school graduation. We put it to the senior class to vote on, and they were pretty adamant that they did not want to participate in a virtual graduation. And so we are looking to host a physical graduation in July. And the dates, I'll share those dates with you. The first date that will be looked upon as a day for the physical graduation is July 11th. In the event of inclement weather, the next weekend, the following weekend, which will be the 18th, will be the date that will be used. Now, what we're hoping to accomplish by using a July date is we will have had a chance to see how other districts have fared with their graduation ceremonies. Some are choosing to do virtual, some are choosing to do physical, but we will be on the side watching and finding ways to perfect it. We sent notification out that it would include tickets for 2, which is a very small number, with the hopes that the graduates would encourage those that live in the household with them to be present and others to watch it by live stream. Now, this may or may not be possible. Of course, this creates a lot of angst for family members, and so that's why I believe it's going to be best and better for us to watch it from the sideline. I'm on a call tomorrow to be in the presence virtually with doctors from the Midlands to talk about what some precautions might be and how we can better protect ourselves if we choose to have a physical graduation, which the choice has been made, and it is in July. Again, the first date being July 11th, and the time is 8 a.m. 8 a.m., which means everyone will have to be there early enough for us to begin. Everyone will be required to wear a face mask. No one said 8 a.m., so I'll go back. I was hoping someone would say, why 8 a.m.? Because July is going to be hot. It's going to be outside. It's going to be better for us to be in and out as quickly as possible. So 8 a.m. There'll be a letter that will be sent home, and it'll be posted on our social media and the school sites on tomorrow with more information. But again, class of 2020, we believe this to be a time of celebration for you. We heard you. We want you to enjoy and celebrate and bask in your glory, but it's going to be in an expedient manner. We look to have the graduation begin and end within an hour. So there'll be some things that won't traditionally be held during the ceremony that will take place. However, each Wednesday from 8:20 to 8:40 here at the high school, students that are graduating as seniors, they're being honored by the high school with the lighting of the fields. We hopefully will have the scoreboard up, and it'll be your first chance to see the scoreboard lit up with lights, with the video screen going by, showing and showcasing you. There's some other things that are being planned by the high school, and I won't spoil the surprise with that, but we want this to be as special as we can for the seniors, considering the circumstances. That being said, we do not want to miss out celebrating, if we can, with those 8th graders promoting to 9th grade, 5th graders promoting to 6th grade, i.e. middle school, and pre-K promoting to kindergarten. So celebrations for everyone.
Any comments? I won't say suggestions, any comments?
I'll take suggestions.
I have one.
I'm listening.
Even if we have graduation, there's gonna be a lot of folks who won't get an opportunity to come. And it was, someone just mentioned to me, and I thought it was a great idea, taking pictures of all our seniors and to see if we can get permission to put them around the courthouse square.
We've already working on that. I said there were some things we weren't gonna mention.
Well, you didn't mention it, that's just one that was asked of me, and I just said I'd make sure I mentioned it.
Yeah, we're working on some things now,
That's
in
right.
conjunction with the high school.
All right. Then I just messed up.
No, you didn't. That's just one thing.
Not knowing.
But we are planning to celebrate as much as we can.
Castor oil.
Did you?
You good? Yeah, vacancies.
Oh, Dr. Robinson and Barbara McCall. I'm sorry. We're gonna do an overview of our current vacancy list and where we stand. Now, the CARES Act, that's going to be moved to the budget report with Mr. West Clark. It's included in his presentation. I think some of you have seen it, and then you'll hear me mention a couple things as well.
Chairman McNeil, board members, Dr. McCord,
Speak.
can you?
Speak. speaking to the microphone.
Giving you an update on our current vacancies. At this current time, by location, if you look at the, it may not be in your packet, it may just be on this screen, is a breakdown of our current certified and classified vacancies. As of today, we have 33 certified vacancies and 7 classified. We are actively trying to replace the 33 certified. We are holding off on the 7 classified due to the budget. But we are doing coffee chats, reaching out through social media, all platforms available to try to fill those vacancies. And that is a fluid number because contracts are due May 11th. As of today, we have hired 26 certified staff for next year. And as I said, we have not filled any of the classified, but that's because we are holding off for the budget. We'll make those decisions after the budget process is completed. Questions?
Could you go back to the other slide, please? Thank you.
Including the 26 you have, still have 33 vacancies.
Yes. From our December, letters of intent, we estimated that it would be about 50 vacancies this year, which is in line with what we've seen in the last couple of years.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was waiting on you to tell.
Oh, no, I said thank
Okay.
you. I was good.
Move forward with fiscal responsibility.
Yes.
Okay. West Park, I'll ask you to come up at this time. And as West Park makes his way to the podium, I would like to acknowledge the fact that Wes is retiring. He made mention of that at the start of this 2019-2020 school year. We conducted a search for his replacement. We searched far and wide, not just here in the region, not just in the state, but nationally, but we were able to find someone here in the PD region from just next door. And so I'm excited to introduce to all of you and to our viewing public, Ms. Sharon Denise Hubbard, who comes with over 25 years' experience from Chesterfield County in the field of accounting. And we want to, and I want to say, welcome to Marlboro County, Ms. Hubbard.
Thank you. I stand here tonight thanking you for the opportunity to be your next district CFO. I want to thank the Board of Education and Superintendent McCord for the vote of trust they placed in me. I look forward to working with the Board of Education, our parents, our students, our faculty, and our staffs as we move forward to the next level. Again, thank you.
Welcome. Welcome.
You have before you, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. McCord. You have before you the financial report as of April 29th, 2020. The report indicates at the date, April 29th, the district's cash and investment balances on hand for the 4 primary operating accounts were $7,639,164. As of that same date, the district had expended $23,977,852 of a $34,818,102 budget, or 68.87% of budget year to date. Now, any questions regarding that? We can head right into the budget document. What I want to do is just kind of update you, since our last budget meeting, what we've done is we've retained our local projections. As I mentioned before, we do have a plant closure of Rocco that will impact our books in the fiscal year 21-22, so that fee in lieu should be intact for the current year. So we've retained our existing local revenue projections. We revised our state revenue projections based on a 10% reduction to EFA and a 5% reduction to the fringe and salary reimbursement revenues. We've also updated all of our staffing costs based on the existing salary schedules. And as I mentioned before, salary schedules will be frozen for the upcoming year unless there's some modification to that with the state budget, but we, seriously doubt if that will happen. We prepared a cost estimate for vacancies as of the April 28th date, and as you just heard from Dr. Robertson, the numbers in terms of vacancies for certified and classified at that date. We've not eliminated any additional vacant positions since the initial budget preparation on March 23rd, and the vacancies not filled at the April 28th include teachers, school administrators, and classified support personnel. When we look at the cost to fill all the vacancies that we've got in the budget, it's about a little over $2.5 million, and obviously the bulk of that is the cost associated with filling those teacher slots. Next. We continue to hear caution regarding revenue forecasts. I mean, some of the biggest concerns that we're hearing have to do with the effect of business and how that is going to impact tax revenues. How much will tax revenues suffer as a result of those businesses that have been shut down, either temporarily or permanently? We've got concerns with industries. Will some of those industries in this environment, will they actually close up and leave, or will they be able to continue with their operations? And then, of course, the big question is how long will it take for tax revenues to return to the pre-virus levels? Those are obviously some significant concerns. We look at the discussion of the CARES Act. I know we talked about this briefly before. We mentioned the dollar amounts, $1,733,038. That's our portion of the award. There are 12 buckets that are allowable use for those funds. And one of the things we did find is, some of the initial discussion, we thought those use of those funds were more restrictive, but it appears as if some of those uses can be used as to really aid with our operations. But start out, there are activities authorized by ESSA of 1965. We've got funding to aid with response to the coronavirus, resources to aid with the needs of schools. There are unique needs of low-income children. There are systems designed to improve preparedness, and then, of course, training and professional development. Next.
Now, I do want to, if I can, talk about the CARES Act. And some of you, in earlier discussions, we talked about what the future may look like for Marlboro County, not just Marlboro County, but specifically right now Marlboro County, if and when students and staff return. We have reached out to service providers to come in and disinfect all buildings so that if and when we get a definite start date, we can ensure our faculty, staff, families, community, that all buildings will be thoroughly disinfected by a professional company. We also, and that may be covered by the state, but if not, we have already put that in place. Some of the other things that we've thought about with how we will use this CARES Act funding, the 1.7, is how will we replenish our current digital footprint. We have devices that have been out now for an extended period of time, in some cases for the first time. How will we receive those devices when they return to us at the end of the month? We do not know. So some of that money is going to be used to help us increase our ability to provide e-learning and digital learning for students here in the county, as well as in some cases what we can do to assist teachers. We talk about students not having adequate access to technology. We also have staff that doesn't have it, which impedes their ability to perform at optimum levels when it comes to e-learning. And so we'll be looking to have conversations with cable providers and companies. I think George has reached out to find a warming map that shows where our hotspots are here in the county. More will be discussed on Thursday about this, and we're going to see how we can partner with our service providers to improve services. And so I'm not saying that we're going to use all 1.7 million, but we're going to do everything that we can to build up our infrastructure so that if and when we have a situation come about like we currently are faced, we'll be better prepared. I look at that as a silver lining from this, and that is that we will be able to find new and creative ways to reach our students, not just our students, but our staff as well. So,
great. As you can see, there, and Dr. McCord's mentioned, obviously supplies to sanitize and clean facilities. They're planning for and coordinating long-term closures, technology as allowable use, providing mental health services and support, planning and implementing activities for summer learning and after-school programs, and the last is kind of a catch-all, other activities to maintain continuity of the education agency.
now I just want to touch bases on that last bullet, and Wes, if you would, just if I don't state it correctly, do that. There may be opportunities where we can utilize these funds to help assist us with operating expenses. And so if we can find ways to creatively use these funds without supplanting, then we definitely will do that, because every penny, as you'll see in a moment, will help us when it comes to operating expenses.
Very good.
Did I say that correctly?
You did.
Okay.
One quick question.
Yes.
When you say planning and implementing activities for summer learning, are we anticipating that we will have summer programs?
And that's a great question, and the answer to that is yes. We are in the process of planning to have summer school, albeit it may be virtual summer school, whether it be for third grade remediation, but the State Department is looking to help pick up that tab. But in the event that they had not or do not, we have to do something to help capture or recapture students that are most in need. So for example, we know and we've identified students that were struggling before March 16th, and they've been out. Without that face-to-face interaction, many times that impedes the student. And so if we can do something starting possibly in July that will allow us a chance to assess students, whether it be through some type of testing, virtual e-learning, we have to find out what we can do to get them back on board, because essentially what's going to happen is Gregory, who was struggling as a fourth grader, in all likelihood is going to promote to fifth grade next year. So if we can, we'd like to do something. This isn't a summer slide. This is a pandemic that's caused us to have school closure from what we normally would. And so we have to find a way to address Gregory as best we can, as early as we can. And so yes, we are planning to have some type of summer program. Not quite sure what it's going to look like, but that is in the works.
With the care that, isn't it certain things that we are able to spend money on, just like what's listed up there in the chart? We wouldn't be able to use it anywhere else except for these places, or?
12 buckets, but the 12 buckets, yes. But that 12th bucket is pretty broad. And that's where we would try to be as creative as possible.
Next. Because there's so much uncertainty regarding the upcoming fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, we are recommending at the June 1st, 2020 meeting, the adoption of a continuing resolution. Effectively, a continuing resolution leaves the current budget for fiscal year 1920 in place for 2021 until a new budget can be adopted. We're gonna talk a little bit about what that looks like, because what we've done here is we've done the estimates based on those reductions in revenues that we're anticipating, and then what our expenditures look like. And you can see we're thinking our revenues are gonna come in about 32,830,000, and our expenditures are gonna come in about 34,102,000. So 32,830,000 on revenues, 34,102,000 on expenditures. That's gonna leave a shortfall of 1,272,000. And when we take a look at what would that impact be on our existing fund balance, and of course, we don't know when we close the books at June 30th of 2020, are we going to be positive, are we gonna be negative? I think we're gonna be fairly close to what our existing fund balance is, but say for instance, that shortfall hits a year from now, we can see right at this point in time, we've got a current fund balance of $5,027,591. If we divide that by our annual expenditures, we're at 15.63%, which I think is in a pretty good spot. If it's reduced by 1,272,230 at June 30th of 2021, that percentage drops to about 12%. So right now, over 15% on fund balance. If we took a $1,272,000 hit to fund balance, it would drop our fund balance down to about 12%.
And where do we wanna be at, what percentage?
Well, we'd like to be where we are right now or better. Obviously, the advantage in having a higher fund balance, it gives us a lot more stability. It allows us to be in a scenario if we've got something that comes up to be able to address that without having any, any repercussions.
It impacts our bond rating.
It does.
But there's a
Operations,
requirement,
everything else.
there's a requirement by the state that keeps us off of the emergency watch list that we have. It's gonna be right at 8%. I just round up to 8%. So worst case scenario is we would be able to meet that requirement, but that's not something that we would be proud of, because again, that hurts us in the long run when it comes to other things that we would need.
Sure.
Wes, I have a question, you may be answering it shortly. You're saying we got a roughly $1.2 million shortfall.
Correct.
Based on the budget that we're in now, because my understanding of the resolution for the continuum has to do with this year's budget, which would be 1920 at 34 plus. And so if we continued that budget and it went through 2021, it would still be the 34 point whatever that is I'm looking at behind me. Am I right?
To a certain extent, yes.
So where
We've
does the shortfall come in?
actually reduced expenditures. We're expecting our expenditures will be at least $700,000 less in the next budget year, because
So
we
how
have
does
had
where's the shortfall coming in?
the shortfall comes in as a result of reduction of state revenues for.
Even though the state is the one that's telling us that we recommending that we need to do
Continuing resolution.
All right, that's my thing.
Right.
They're telling us to stay where we are, but there could be a possibility of a reduction.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I would be very surprised if we don't see a reduction in revenues based on, just what's transpired in the last month or so.
So basically, the shortfall is a projection, it's not reality.
It is a projection, and of course, We don't anticipate that we'll have a state, budget until probably September or October. We know that the legislature's going back, to meet, I believe it's next week, but
Okay.
however, it's, they're not going to be working to adopt a budget. The Board of Economic Advisors, I think, wants to get through, the June 30th and the September 30th quarter, very close to that, before they actually feel confident enough to, project what the revenue estimates are gonna be.
You may not be the person to answer this question. Probably nobody in this county can answer that question, but with the money, the stimulus money, and I'm not talking about the personal stimulus money, I'm talking about the stimulus money that's coming into businesses and to states. I struggle with it being a shortfall when you're giving the money back to keep you from having a deficit if I own a company.
Well, I think.
And I know, like I said, you're not the person to answer that, but if I have a company and you're gonna give me $25 million, I didn't lose anything. So if I didn't lose anything, why are we, and you, again, it's not you can answer this, how can we be where we gonna end up being when you're gonna give them the money back?
Well, I think that.
That's why I said.
Yeah.
I'm just
next year-
curious.
Next year, and not to get too far across, that's why I said next year, 2021 is not going to impact us like the following couple of years. That's where we have to be careful, because that question that you just asked, speaks entirely to 21-22 school year.
Okay, Mr. Park, let me just kind of get this straight. The budget we're operating in now is 34,818,102. That's what we're doing now.
Correct.
So they're asking us to, for a continuing resolution for that same 34,818,102.
Correct.
Okay, now, I'm trying to get, I'm just,
We may need to get a little further into the presentation so you can kind of see where the difference
You
is.
see where,
Yeah.
the
Okay. Just take the next slide, just to give you an idea of how much a deficit would result in our fund balance being less than 1 month's expenditure. I think this is a real important thing to follow, because we know that if this shortfall ended up being $2.4 million, we would drop below 1 month's of general fund expenditure, which would put us on a watch list. And obviously, there's a lot of other repercussions. We're gonna go to that next slide, and I'll just kind of talk a little bit about what happens if our fund balance becomes less than a month. Well, first off, cash flow. I don't think there's any doubt about it. We would have to issue tax anticipation notes annually. We've been really fortunate. I know in the last 12 years, we haven't had to do that. We've got financial compliance, and would require a lot of additional oversight and review because of risk exposure. When we look at borrowing cost, that would increase borrowing cost as a result of a downgrade in bond rating. So when we go out to try to finance new projects, it would be more expensive. And then when we look at the risk rating with SDE, district would be placed on a warrant status, which would require higher audit fees and requirements, and will impact future funding for competitive grant awards. So if SDE has got funding for a particular project or activity, and they're making a choice between a district that's in a warrant status and one that's not, obviously, the district that's in a better situation is going to end up getting the award. So it could impact our funding. So just want to certainly prepare for that discussion, because the last thing we need to do is let our fund balance drop to less than a month's worth of expenditures. We look at shortfall, assuming that the estimates in terms of revenue come in where they are. How could we address that in this upcoming year? We could consider a combination of maximizing special revenue funds and grants. Obviously, CARES Act could be a part of that. Working with principals and administrators to make cuts by finding creative ways to reduce costs of filling vacancies, consolidating, eliminating positions through attrition, and then reducing the use of purchase services, supplies, and materials. All those things could help to make a significant reduction in those numbers. We take a look at what our revenues were in terms of the budget for fiscal year 1920 versus what we're projecting for 2021. You can see we actually are still expecting to see about a $600,000 increase in ad valorem tax, and I think as you remember, we had that discussion last year about an expired fee in lieu from the former Will Emmett project. It was a 30-year fee. Obviously, those revenues are going to be higher for this upcoming year. We've also seen some growth in property taxes, which includes vehicles as well. We've made adjustments to state shared revenue and fringe and salary reimbursements. EFA is the big change there. That is a per pupil allocation. We expect we're gonna see about a 10% reduction, and that's where the most substantial increase is going to be, or decrease is gonna be. If we look at the bottom, you can see fund balance. In order to meet the current year revenues, it's gonna require about $1,272,000 in fund balance if our other revenue projections are correct. And that leaves a difference of about $715,000, which is actually what we expect right now. What our budget is going to be at least $715,000 less than the current year. So when we talk about adopting a continuing resolution, we're actually setting aside about $715,000 in expenses that we don't expect that we're going to incur in the upcoming year. Hopefully that number is actually greater. Next slide. We've gone through and we've done the revisions. We've actually updated all of our budget prep numbers based on vacancies that are in place, and then of course creating those vacancies, and then with some of those vacancies that have been filled, we've had people that have left, that some of them have been in the earlier stages of their career, and so when we ended up replacing those staff members, the actual cost of salary and benefits were greater as a result of some of the staff members that left, teaching staff. You can see the expenditures. Obviously, salaries are less, benefits are less, purchase services very close to the same, a little less in supplies and materials. The rest of it is fairly consistent. We did have that discussion about the transfer to food service is just kind of a true up. We're required to pick up a part of the cost of those benefits. Overall, you can see the expenditures for 2021 based on what's available in terms of revenue. That makes up the $34,818,000.
What's the increase in the transfer of the food service?
We're required to pay for a portion of the benefit costs for those food service workers. There's there is a computation that we're only able to charge to the federal funds what the average cost is for all of our other funds in terms of benefits. And because typically those workers in food service, end up being in a lower wage, the cost of their benefits is a greater percentage. So we actually have to pick up that additional cost in general fund to pay for those benefits. And that's about $275,000 we're projecting for next year.
So that would, and I'm glad you asked that question, because in my mind, I'm thinking it was food services in some way that we were paying for additional food, but it's actually for the salaries of the,
It's a benefit,
staff.
it's the benefit cost of the staff. So,
Okay.
of course, if you're providing health insurance for someone who is earning maybe $20,000 a year, it's a much higher percentage than it is for someone that's in a teaching role earning 40 or 50,000.
well, would you do me a favor in the future, stick salary or benefit or something up there?
I'll
So
do
I
that.
can differentiate the difference from that and.
That's
food
a
itself.
great point, yeah,
That would help me.
sure.
What would you like to see, benefits?
Something, anything there
Yeah.
because in my mind.
And it
I'm
really
thinking
is a
food-
benefit
When you say food
transfer.
service, I'm thinking food,
Okay.
and we're actually talking about benefits to staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
It's called food service benefits.
Yeah.
Go back to the, internal revenue estimates.
internal, yeah, they're internal revenue, yeah, next, going back,
Yeah.
back, yeah.
That $90,000 in the fund balance there. That, there was something about the $90,000 in the fund balance that was gonna,
When we pass,
Use the balance of budget last year.
we used it to balance it, but we thought that we would get it back or something.
well, what we hope is that we will not use any fund balance in the current year. But
So that could increase our fund balance.
it
back
could
a little
increase
bit.
it, yes, yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
And we know that we've had a number of vacancies through this fiscal year. We're hoping that, obviously tax collections, some of those other things will also be a benefit.
So we're hoping that we can increase the fund balance at the end of this year, as of June 30th. So,
That's a hope.
okay.
Ms. Nina, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I just have to look over this because we just got it. I have to look it over because there's some, I'm looking at for, they're asking us to, I'm sorry, they're asking us to accept a continuing resolution for, the budget we had last year, 34,818,102. And, we had $90,000 last year from the fund balance, and now the number this year is $1,272,230. That is, and of course, you went over what that $1,272,000 would do to our rating and all that stuff. And yet, he's saying that you're gonna put money in the fund balance, but you're gonna take it out. I have to look over this a little bit more.
Well, I'm just saying that when we
We
put that
had
money
to
in,
each year.
we were told that we thought we were putting it in, but we thought we were gonna be able to retrieve that by the end of the year.
Okay.
And what I was sitting there thinking was, if we can retrieve it, then in actuality, instead of costing us $1,272 additional dollars, then it might be that it's,
500 and some.
$1,162,000.
You did that $90,000. So
Uh-huh.
the fact that 90,
That's what I was
Yeah.
trying to think. It might not be quite as much out of our fund balance if we put some back in.
Right, and if I can, just as a reminder, we
That's just hope.
we put somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.6 million back into the fund balance for this fiscal year. And so each year, the district, on average, has put somewhere around $50,000 to $55,000 back into the fund balance. And so even though you're putting in, there was a decision made by the board last year that if we needed the 90,000 to balance the budget, because we were not doing the 2 mil increase, if you recall, that was the conversation.
Yeah.
Whether or not we would raise the millage by 2, which would have been at 45,000 per, for a total of 90. And rather than raise the mill, the board decided we would take that out of the fund balance, because we felt pretty comfortable we would have, we didn't realize we would have such a windfall, but we felt pretty comfortable we would have been okay. So we won't get 1.6 this year. Probably nowhere near it, but there are some things that we are not doing now, operating costs as a result of COVID, but then there are other things that we are doing. So we'll just have to see where it falls. But prior to last year, the district, for the most part, has been coming in somewhere between 50 and 55,000 annually contribution to fund balance.
Danny, I'm sorry.
Mr. West,
Yes, sir.
the 1.7 from the CARES Act, does it come into play?
No,
in this
that
scenario?
is not presented in these numbers, and obviously that could help to shave some of the cost off of, our expenditure side.
So that 1.7 may help us out on this.
Yes,
on
sir.
this screen that I'm seeing right here.
Yes,
Some
sir.
point.
It can't be included in the numbers.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about what's next. Yeah. The cafeteria workers are, they work, 30 hours a week, which is, either 30 to 35, depending on, what their position is, so they do get full benefits.
And sometimes to their chagrin, then that's a great question, because some would rather, if they could, choose not to be full-time, because they feel as though what it costs them for benefits is counterproductive. So,
If they were not full-time, would that cost us more or less?
say that again?
If they were not full-time, would that cost us less?
Definitely costs us less.
It would cost us less, but
Wouldn't have to provide health insurance for those employees that don't
we
meet
presented that.
a 30-hour.
We presented a couple of models last year
Yeah.
for cafeteria and custodian,
Yeah.
if you recall, right?
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about what's next. Looking forward, obviously, the next meeting is June the 1st, and I will be providing the board with a continuing resolution for the upcoming fiscal year 2021 budget. At a future date, there will be a board-approved advertisement for first reading and public hearing. Have to go through the same process we go through, even though it's going to be subsequent to June 30th, and another future date. And that, of course, this is gonna depend on when the legislature reconvenes and adopts a budget. We'll have a public hearing, we'll have a first reading, and then a second and final reading. One thing I will mention, at the upcoming board meeting, I'm also going to be presenting a recommendation in terms of a letter to our county auditor, stating that this is the amount of revenue that we are expecting to meet, and that we believe the existing millage that's in place will provide for that, because we are going to need to send that communication to the auditor before our budget very possibly is adopted, because if the state doesn't adopt their budget until September, October, those tax notices have to go out, and the auditor is gonna need that letter to be able to send that communication to Smith Data to be able to, or QS1, whatever service they're using, to be able to print those tax notices. So that is one thing that will be on the upcoming agenda as well.
I know we've had some very long discussions on this, but from what we just said just a few seconds ago about part-time, full-time, would outsourcing help us some on some of our projects on this, for us saving some money for the district to apply it to our teachers and stuff? And that's just, I'm just throwing that out there. I know we've had some long discussions on this, but sometimes, you know, you have to look at outside the box, and maybe outsourcing some of our, you know, some of our things that we have done may in the long run save us some money that we could apply somewhere else. So, again, I know we've had some long discussions on it, I won't one tonight, but I'm just throwing the thought out there. You know, outsourcing is a way, I think, and prove me wrong if I'm wrong, but outsourcing is a way to solve some of our financial problems, because we have less money going out. Just a thought.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, it's a thought and idea about the problem when you run into outsourcing. It's like we tried it with a couple other companies, and the response that we get from them wasn't what we were used to getting if we were going from out in-house. The dependability, the local people that we're employing. So it didn't work in one instance. I don't want to call the name of the company. I think y'all know. But it didn't work again, and I think it was, we put ourselves and our kids at a disadvantage by outsourcing.
Yeah, I think that's something we could do at a later date among ourselves, at least have that discussion somewhere. Ms. Nan?
No, I think with the outsources, and I hear what you're saying, Mr. Davis, but it was presented to us about janitorial services, and of course, we always look what we think with our heart or our head. And the same thing with the cafeteria, they would suggest that we bring in a food service, and it would probably save us some money. But then you're looking at people that will be displaced. And, well, it was, well, the janitorial service, we chose not to, and then of course, the food service, we chose not to. Maybe we need a little bit more education on that, but right, at the time, the feeling was that the people that had those jobs, they needed those jobs. And, the board made the decision to.
Again, I don't want to get into that long conversation, but what my understanding from the outsourcing was that every employee that we had was going to be given the opportunity to keep their job, be trained, and work that job for a certain amount of time to prove that they were capable of doing it, and they would be able to keep their employment. But again, I didn't mean to bring it on a long discussion tonight. I got somewhere else I need to be too, but.
And I'll say this quickly, that is correct. No employee will be in danger of losing their job. I think that's one of those misnomers that have been spread about outsourcing for quite some time. No one loses their job. However, after everyone's been trained, then you get to a point in the position where the employer then makes decisions. But no one loses their job, not right away.
Let me restate what I said earlier. Let's do this at a different time. Let's get to a point where we think we may or may not need to do that. We could go for the next 5 hours about something that we won't come to a resolve tonight.
They would lose their benefits.
And so let's just keep going forward from where we are. And we can talk about outsourcing when we get to a point where we look at the budget a different way. Is that good enough? Thank you very much. Going forward. Wes?
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that being said, I do want to mention and ask a question about the attendance bonuses that we talked about earlier this year, with that coming up now. Where are we with that as far as the bonuses
For employees?
Yes.
Right now, as you recall, the board did approve for attendance bonuses to be provided for those that would be returning to the district that achieve a rate of 90% attendance or better for second semester. And so anyone that has achieved that prior to March 16th will be eligible for the bonus, provided they return a contract. And so I'm happy to say that those checks will go out at the end of May. So those checks will go out at the end of May. And then we also approved $250 for those that are retiring from the district and not returning. And so those two will go out at the end of May. And so that's actually a perfect segue to tonight. We would like to begin by saying thank you to all teachers and staff. This today, May 4th, 2020, is the beginning of National Teacher Appreciation Week. So thank you, teacher. If some of you would like to join me for videos to send out to employees, or you want to sing a song or play an instrument or tell a story, I'm sure they'll be excited to hear from you, and we can put a collection together and send it out somewhere towards the middle to the end of the week. Just let us know. We can put it together. If not, this can serve as a time for you to say thank you to our staff for all the hard and tremendous work that they do each and every day, especially during these times of the pandemic.
Mr. Coachman?
Just got a question from the community and citizens on being that the government has to have partially opened the state of South Carolina for certain things.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Being that government master has partially opened the state of South Carolina for certain things, that when will the public or some people be allowed to come to public meetings, open session meetings, school board meetings? This, I know it is May, and just a question and concern from the community.
Right, that will be decided on by the governor. Right now, there's still orders in place that you can't have crowds of more than 10 unless they're deemed to be essential. If you look around, we have just those that are considered to be essential here tonight for tonight's board meeting. But as soon as we get clearance, then that will definitely take place.
And if they do have some concerns, they can reach out to Ms. Cribb or to the district office with their concerns, and then we will be able to hear them during our regular sessions if they so choose to do. They can't be here publicly, but we can hear their voice if they have something they'd like to say. Okay, anyone else? Coronavirus response resolution.
Okay,
I think everyone has a copy, am I right? Okay, we've been an opportunity to read it, I hope.
I'm going to ask, well, actually, I'll read it. I was going to ask Dr. Robinson, but I'll read it. And again, this resolution is being presented on behalf of Government Masters issued Executive Order number 2020-08 declaring a state of emergency in South Carolina based on a determination that the 2019 novel coronavirus poses an actual imminent public health emergency for the state of South Carolina. And it goes on with several whereas, and again, just repeating the governor's executive order. And if you don't mind, I'll go to for the duration of, if no one objects to, and this is all posted. For the duration of the state of emergency in South Carolina, and unless otherwise directed by subsequent action of the board waives and or suspends all policies, administrative procedures, and other rules that conflict with the aforementioned executive orders of Governor McMaster and any future applicable executive orders, any state and federal emergency laws, such as the Families First Coronavirus Response Act that may have or may be passed during the pandemic, any guidance issued by federal or state agencies included, but not limited to FEMA, the Department of Labor, the IRS, and the South Carolina Department of Education, and further authorizes the board chair in consultation with the superintendent to waive or suspend provisions of existing policies, administrative procedures, and other rules if compliance with the provisions thereof would in any way prevent, hinder, or delay the necessary action by the board or school district in coping with the emergency or otherwise in carrying out the applicable executive orders of the governor. including making necessary and appropriate arrangements to account for the local needs and unique circumstances of the board and school district.
Okay, and
Now,
this,
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, this resolution has to do with we will have to vote on this resolution.
You would have to vote to accept, and I will note that, it does state subsequent action of the board, but it was, made clear to me that you would like
Yes.
further authorizes not just the board chair, but the board,
As a whole.
the board.
Yes.
So take out chair.
Take out board chair and replace board chair with board.
I would just have to take out chair and just put
Yes.
the board,
Yes, please.
okay?
Mr. Costa.
I'm just looking at this part, and you might be able to clarify, and I think that's what it means, that, so that might have to say. That's otherwise I read it, subsequently, action of the board waives and suspends all administrative procedures and other rules that conflict with the board executive order of the governor.
So let me give you an example, correct. Right now, the board would need to pass, action, the board would have to take action on policy IKR as it relates to grading. Now, our current, practice, or your current practice is that when, the information is presented, it's presented for first read and then second read. We wouldn't have time to do a first and second read prior to, the end of the school year for something like that. And so it would suspend that. But that is essentially what it says. That if there is something that comes about that conflicts with the executive order, the board gives that authority, but it'll be to the board, not the superintendent, but to the board and the superintendent after consultation.
And this has been reviewed by our.
It has been reviewed, it has been passed in other districts in the state. I know all of you received that statewide communique. You'll see this is something that has been shared and has been used, and is being used. And it's just a preventative method so that you don't have to have an emergency meeting to take action.
Okay, what's your pleasure on this resolution?
Make a motion that we accept the resolution, the CB-19 resolution, Marvin County School District Board of Trustees.
It's been moved in second that we accept this resolution, the resolution of COVID-19 resolution of the Marlboro County School District Board of Trustees. Are you ready for questions?
I got a question. Do we need to amend that to include the change, or is the change okay?
Thank you. That would need to be in the motion.
That would need to be in the motion to amend that.
Make a motion that we amend, to take out chair and just include board and waive that chair out of the resolution of the school district board.
We'll just take one more.
Okay. So we need to first get the amendment in. Can I get a second on the amendment?
Second.
It's moved in second that this resolution be amended, striking the word chair from the resolution and leaving the board present. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Opposed with the same. Now we're back to the voting of the resolution as a whole. It has been moved and second that we now accept this resolution as amended. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Opposed of the same, it is unanimous, we have accepted this resolution. Okay, and with that being said, is there a need to go back into executive session for any reason? Mr. Coach?
Chair,
Yes, sir.
make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that this meeting be adjourned. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Opposed of the same, we are adjourned.
Anybody